Peru the elephant was going through her second pregnancy, but this time labor was much longer and tougher. After hours of pain and tears when she finally gave birth, the park staff stretched their necks to get a look at the newborn. But when they saw her baby, they couldn't help but let out screams of pure shock. When the team at Amboseli National Park in Kenya noticed that their elephant Peru was showing signs that labor was near, they immediately called in a vet for help. This wasn't Peru's first baby. She had already given birth once, 2 years ago. Back then, her pregnancy had caught them a little off guard because she had carried small and barely showed signs of stress or discomfort. But this time was different. They had spotted the pregnancy early. Peru was carrying much heavier and even moved a bit clumsily. It was clear she wasn't feeling quite herself, and the pregnancy was weighing on her more than before. Because she seemed so uncomfortable, the keepers decided to keep a close watch on her, which is why they were already nearby when she started pacing around her enclosure and trumpeting loudly. But it soon became clear that this labor was going to be a much harder one. Peru was in visible agony for hours, crying out to her herd and the staff as if pleading for help. Nothing seemed to bring her comfort. She paced as much as she could, rubbing against trees now and then. Her labor moved along painfully slow, stretching out her suffering. Her cries echoed out into the wild, bouncing off the cliffs of the nearby mountains. The noise even started drawing in predators and scavengers, hoping there might be an easy meal. Thankfully, Peru had her herd with her. They circled around to protect her, their main focus clearly on keeping danger away. The staff stayed close, nervously waiting to see if she would make it through. The vet stood ready to jump in if needed. Then, all of a sudden, Peru went completely silent. After a few tense minutes, one of the scouts bravely moved closer to see what had happened, and what he found left him gasping. He shouted for everyone else to come over, unable to believe what he was seeing. The rest of the staff rushed in and were stunned by what they saw. Peru had given birth to twins. It was an almost unbelievable sight. Twin births in elephants are so rare that they hardly ever happen. The last recorded case had been all the way back in 1980. Suddenly, everything made sense. No wonder Peru had been so large and uncomfortable during her pregnancy. She hadn't been carrying just one little elephant, but two. After the first rush of shock and happiness wore off, a deep concern quickly set in among the staff. There was a reason why having twins in the wild was so rare. Animals like elephants just aren't built to raise more than one baby at a time. It's simply too hard on them. Usually it means the weaker calf doesn't survive. The staff's worries only grew when they noticed how Peru's oldest daughter was reacting to the twins. Unlike the rest of the herd, she didn't seem happy at all. Instead of acting like a proud big sister, she stared at the little ones with a deep scowl. The staff itched to step in, but they knew they couldn't. Working in a national park meant letting nature take its course, even when it was hard to watch. Normally, older siblings in elephant herds are sweet and welcoming toward new babies. But not this time. Peru's daughter stomped her feet near the newborns and even pretended to charge at them. They weren't even an hour old, but she was already showing the whole herd how upset she was. Peru was too exhausted to deal with her daughter's bad behavior, but thankfully the herd knew just what to do. Elephant families are incredibly close, and the older members often step in when needed. One of the senior females calmly pulled the young troublemaker away from the new mom and her babies. She stroked the upset juvenile with her trunk, gently calming her down. The staff let out a sigh of relief. They didn't want anything bad happening to the twins, especially since their birth meant so much for the entire herd. The team kept a close eye on Peru and waited eagerly to see how the twins would do. Watching a newborn elephant try to stand is always an adorable sight. Their legs wobble all over the place, like they don't quite know how to use them yet. Peru's twins were no different. One of the calves managed to get up first. He looked surprisingly strong, stepping forward a few times before plopping down on his bottom. But he wasn't giving up. He scrambled back to his feet as fast as he could, only to fall again. He was a chunky little guy, and the staff could already imagine him growing into a huge, bossy male someday. His brother, though, was having a much harder time. He struggled just to get his little body up off the ground. You could tell he was giving it everything he had, but it just wasn't enough. His tiny head kept bobbing up and down as he fought to bring his legs underneath him. This went on for nearly half an hour before he finally gave up for a while. From where they sat, the park rangers could see how worn out he was from all the effort. As understandable as it was, his weakness was deeply worrying. Things weren't looking good for twin number 2. Meanwhile, twin number 1 kept toddling along, full of life, just like any healthy newborn. He waddled over to Peru, letting out little moans and reaching for her with his trunk. It was such a sweet thing to see. Peru welcomed him warmly, pulling him close and beginning to feed him. But even as she cared for him, the staff noticed her glancing around anxiously, clearly thinking about her other calf. This smart mama knew she had 2 babies to look after, and she wasn't about to forget it. When she spotted her second baby lying still in the grass, her worry was obvious. Even though she was exhausted, she forced herself up and stumbled over to him. She nudged him gently with her trunk, and when he didn't respond, she started making soft, worried sounds. Her herd quickly picked up on her concern and began to gather closer. They greeted the strong twin with lots of affectionate touches as they passed, but when they reached the weaker twin, their whole mood changed. Their calls grew low and sad. One by one, they gathered around Peru, standing silently by her side to show their support. Another mother from the group even left her own calf to help out. Together, she and Peru used their trunks to try and encourage the little one to get up, but he barely reacted. It was heartbreaking to see. Both mothers grew more distressed with every moment. They began stamping their feet in frustration, not knowing what else to do. Peru started flapping her ears sharply at her baby, a clear sign she was upset. The herd quickly caught on to her distress, and their uneasiness grew. For the park staff standing nearby, it was gut-wrenching to watch. But there was nothing they could do. This was nature's way, and they had to let it unfold. The second twin looked like he wasn't going to get up anymore, and the herd was already mourning what they probably thought was his imminent passing. After all, a wild animal that cannot walk on its own is nothing more than a sitting duck, and they all knew it. But before anything terrible could happen, it seemed the little elephant finally got the message. His mother and family were there for him, whether he liked it or not. They would encourage him and help him in any way they could. So, for the umpteenth time that day, he gathered all his strength and tried to get to his feet. He pushed and rocked himself as hard as he could, and when he finally lifted his body off the ground, something amazing happened. As the little elephant managed to lift his body slightly off the ground, he braced himself to fall back down again. But this time round, that didn't happen. Instead, he suddenly realized that his mother had looped her trunk around his body and was holding him up on his feet. This unexpected development instantly excited the little elephant, so much so that he managed to keep his balance when his mother finally let go. Thanks to the help of his doting mom, he managed to stay on his feet and take his first steps. He wasn't as fast as his brother, but at least he was moving. The atmosphere in the valley shifted very quickly. For the first time since the twins were born, there was a sign that everything was going to be okay. The herd rejoiced in triumph at the twins walking. This was the first and most important obstacle of their childhood, and they had successfully navigated the storm. In unison, the elephant herd members threw their trunks in the air and let off harmonious toots to let the whole valley know that their newest and youngest members were going to be all right. The staff left the happy little herd to celebrate and went back to their camp. They were buzzing with excitement at what they had just witnessed. After all, not everyone could boast about seeing a twin elephant birth in such a display of cooperation among the members of a herd. Everyone back at camp could hardly believe what they were hearing. At first, they simply thought that they were the victims of a prank joke. But when the staff showed blurry pictures of the twin elephants, their colleagues couldn't help but feel terribly jealous of what they'd experienced. So the next day, everyone at camp insisted on being taken back to where the sweet twin calves had been born. Sure enough, there everyone was able to lay their eyes on the fascinating sight. Two of the tiniest little elephant calves, who were quite easy to tell apart despite the distance. Without thinking, one of the staff members took a beautiful picture of the sweet twins and posted it to his social media. He wanted everyone to witness the miracle of the twin birth and the close relationship that had already formed between the herd members and the babies. And from there, the pictures simply went viral beyond his wildest dreams. The photo soon received thousands of positive comments. However, the post also ended up attracting all the kinds of attention the park would have preferred to avoid. The Amboseli National Park in Kenya was the place that foreigners came to visit when coming to Africa, especially if they like elephants. In fact, it hosted a massive population of over 1,600 elephants. People from around the world came to the park with the sole intention of seeing these gentle giants. So when the pictures started circulating all over social media, everyone started asking to see the baby calves. Everybody was swooning over the fact that something as rare as twins had occurred in an elephant birth and wanted to share in this miracle. Attention is usually positive for attractions such as parks, but sometimes it can have negative consequences too. These come in the form of greedy hunters or poachers that love to take advantage of situations like these. Thanks to the viral pictures, every poacher and hunter in the area became immediately aware that there were prized possessions wobbling along the park on tiny, unstable feet. This meant that the park needed to increase its security immediately. The park was no stranger to tragedy when it came to its elephants. In fact, in just 2017 alone, they had lost 10 elephant calves to various diseases and traps. Poaching was a horrid issue that they had to deal with on a daily basis. There was nothing worse than patrolling the park only to come across an animal that had been trapped or killed. The situation had worsened to the point that they had been forced to employ over 300 scouts from their local community to protect the elephants. The scouts worked with a schedule, all taking turns to protect the beloved land they all worked and lived near. So when they got wind of the fact that there were 2 very vulnerable elephant calves on the reserve, they made it their main purpose to protect them. They started spending quite a bit of time monitoring the new calves for security purposes and also helped monitor the sweet animals' well-being. It was thanks to them that the increased lethargy and distress in the second twin was noticed. For a few days he looked perfectly fine, but now it no longer seemed to be the case. The scouts radioed the park vet and advised them to pay a visit to the newborn elephants. And so, the following day, he went to take a look at the second twin. He wanted to ensure that he was perfectly fine and reassure the park staff once and for all of his well-being. Approaching him, however, was not an easy task. His whole family and herd were surrounding him, ready to protect him from any intruders that seek to harm the baby elephants. They didn't quite understand that the vet had come with all the best intentions. Looking at the elephant from afar, the doctor announced that he was and would be perfectly fine. But when the elephant began to move, it became clear that his condition was definitely worse than everyone had let on. The vet immediately grew quite concerned by what he saw and could hear. The elephant was definitely not thriving in his environment. Unfortunately, there wasn't much he could do. How was he meant to help this calf without interfering with the course of nature? He had a horrible feeling in his gut that something bad was going to happen, so he readied himself to deal with any tragedy. He first got permission from the Wildlife Commission and then entered the area around the elephant with ease. At a first glance, it seemed the calf was in need of supplementary help when it came to eating. So the vet continued to observe the sweet little elephant and monitor his behavior. After a couple hours, he became convinced that a quick shot of supplements would work wonders for his delicate health. So the vet tried to figure out the best place to inject the elephant and then asked everyone on site to help him administer the shot. It was then that all hell broke loose. The elephant was horrified at the sight of the humans approaching. He had never seen one up close, and the one walking with a huge needle in his hands looked the most threatening. So when he realized they were in fact coming for him, he started to run in circles on his wobbly legs in a desperate attempt to leave them behind. Vets and park rangers usually use sedatives and darts to calm down the animals they need to treat, but this doctor needed to come closer to the calf before administering the supplements. He had to assess his weight and prepare the right dose of medicine to make sure it would be effective, but checking out the elephant was proving to be an uphill battle. Besides being scared and skittish, the little elephant also seemed to enjoy the chase. As annoying as it was for the doctor, that also meant that the calf was neurologically sound and just needed physical help. Thankfully, he was in the perfect place for this. Once the vet was able to reach the elephant, he administered the shot and kept engaging him in order to make him run. He knew that physical activity would work wonders for his health, and turning therapy into playdates would make the calf more eager to comply. So the vet began working with the sweet elephant every day until his older sister started copying his movements. That meant that he could leave it up to her to do the therapy with her little brother. Even though she had been so put out by the twins' birth just days before, she was now truly playing the role of an older sibling. She was just happy that her mother still showed her affection and that she now had 2 more playmates to goof around with. Thanks to the vet and Peru's best efforts, the second calf eventually caught up with this herd and became healthy enough to look after himself. The park got their healthy set of rare twins, and many people had the opportunity to watch them interact in their natural habitat. It was a win-win situation for everyone involved and a testament to the power of nature. What an incredible story of luck and perseverance. Have you ever seen twin animals? What would you do to protect Peru's babies from poachers and hunters? Tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Till next time.
If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.